Okay, let's start with the slightly bad news. A bit more effort goes into creating quality YouTube videos than most people realize. The good news, though, is I'm about to give you a very clear structure and system to follow so it's nice and simple, which is going to give you a big advantage over any competitors. But this training in particular is very detailed because we're covering a lot of useful information, but after you've watched it through once, you can obviously come back and revisit the different sections you want to go over again. Because today, we're going through the entire video production process from start to finish. And there are 6 main stages for every video you make. Number 1, the idea. Number 2, the script. Number 3, the recording. Number 4, the editing. Number 5, the thumbnail. And number 6, the upload checklist. Now, if you've been posting YouTube videos for a little while already, you'll be fairly familiar with that process. You may just not have thought of it broken down like that. But we're going to be getting into the best practices for each of those 6 stages. So no matter whether you've been doing YouTube for a while and you're just trying to improve with this course, or whether you're just starting out with YouTube and you've never posted a video, all of this stuff is still going to be very applicable. But let's start with stage 1 of those 6 stages. And stage 1 is the idea. We've already discussed in Training 2.2 how to come up with endless video ideas, but you can always revisit that section if your idea list is ever looking a little short. But let's assume that you've now been using those different strategies in 2.2 and you've got an idea list of lots of different ideas. Now though, we're going to get into creating videos and bringing those raw ideas to life. So for each idea on your idea list, stage 1 is to write down a clear video title before you move on to the next stages. Because this means you're going to be 100% clear exactly what the video is about. For example, if you're an Instagram coach, on your idea list, you may have written down Instagram growths. But don't progress to the next stage of video production until you have a clear title for the video. For example, how to get more followers on Instagram as a beginner. That means when you're making the video, you always know that's the core of what you're talking about. So you don't go off track and end up with a confusing video that's all over the place. But then once you've got a title for the ideas you're going to be working on, move on to stage 2, which is writing the script. The first thing you do is determine how you're going to bring this video idea to life. Would the idea look better with you on camera presenting it? Will it look better using video clips or a screen recording? Maybe even a mix of all of those. Any of the options are fine. It's just useful to know before you start writing out any sort of script. Actually knowing what the video is going to look like. If you're mainly going to be on camera for the video and that you decide that's the best way of producing this video and bringing the idea to life, well, in that case, you can just bullet point the key things you want to include in the video. So you can use those as prompts when actually filming it. Whereas if you're mainly going to be using clips for the video and you're not going to be on camera, you may want to write out a more detailed script, as then you can literally read word for word what you've written into a microphone, since you're not going to be on camera being filmed, so it doesn't matter that you're reading a script. Or, of course, you may even decide that you know this topic so well that you don't want any kind of planned script or bullet points for it. But I'd always be a little bit wary of that because it's much easier to start rambling if you don't have any structure. But once you decide what the best format is to present this particular video idea you're working on, you can start writing, whether that's a full script, bullet points, or just some very brief notes, whichever you feel is best. And just like with brainstorming ideas, the key to getting started with writing the script or the outline is not to worry about writing the perfect thing first time. It's much better to write something and edit it later to make it better, rather than staring at a blank page waiting for that perfect thing to type. No, just get started and soon you'll get into that flow state of writing where the words just seem to come more naturally. However, just make sure that before you go on to stage 3, you do 2 things. Number 1, spend a bit of extra time writing the first 20 to 30 seconds of the video to make sure it has an enticing hook, as the first 30 seconds are when people decide whether they're actually going to watch the video or not. And a lot of people click away right at the beginning if it doesn't have that hook. So something most people miss out on is spending a bit of extra time crafting a very good, enticing opening to the video. So that area in particular deserves more of your focus when you're writing out your bullet points or your script. The second thing you want to do before moving on to the next stage is double check that the script or the bullet points you've written out classifies as infotainment. Because if it's too heavy on information, you may need to add some more entertaining elements to it, which is going back to what we talked about earlier in this module, where we're saying we don't just want to give people pure information and cold hard facts. We need to add some entertainment in as well. And one very simple way to do that is using more stories. So you just wrap the points you're making inside relevant stories and examples that bring that point to life. It doesn't even have to be a story about you. It can be something you heard or read online. But stories are such an underutilized way of making a video so much more immersive and entertaining, and thus getting better results with it. However, once you've double-checked those two things, you can then move on to stage 3, which is recording the footage or the audio. So here you're now going to go and record the core of your video. Depending on the style of video you've chosen, this is either where you turn on your camera and start filming, or you turn on your microphone and start recording, or turn on your screen recording software and start recording. It entirely depends on the type of video you want to make. From training 1.6, you should have already looked into the equipment you need, but you can revisit that if needed. And training 2.3 will also help you get into the right state and mindset before recording so that your performance, if you're on camera, is going to be a lot better as well. It works as well for recording audio, just getting in the right state so your voice is a little bit more energetic and you don't have a very dull, monotone voice. You want to inject some personality into it, of course. So when recording videos, remember as well, we don't want to overcomplicate them and overwhelm people with too much technical information. Keep it at a level that's accessible to most people. But then once you've actually recorded the core of your video, we can move on to stage 4, the editing. So by this point, you'll have your recordings, which might be one long video file, an audio file, or multiple files. But either way, you're now going to want to import them into the editing software of your choice. Personally, I use Adobe Premiere Pro, which is very good and widely used, and definitely worth considering if you want to get more creative with your editing. But in truth, most free video editing software will still do the job if needed, since the functions we're going to be using are relatively basic. I mean, we're trying to make a YouTube video here, not a movie. So bearing that in mind, iMovie for Mac is a free option a lot of people use, or there's something called OpenShot, which works for both Mac or Windows. And I've also put a list of other options on the PDF underneath this training, just so you've got loads of free options to choose from to see which might suit you best and you prefer. But do bear in mind that if you want to upgrade to something a bit more professional that's got some extra more advanced features, you've got the option of doing that as well. And personally, I think Adobe Premiere Pro, you probably can't go wrong there. However, it's also worth pointing out, a lot of the time you'll have something installed on your computer already that can edit videos because, like I said, we're mainly going to be using pretty basic functionality. So double check if you've got anything already installed to keep things nice and simple. But regardless of what software you pick, just search on YouTube for a beginner tutorial of using that software so you can quickly understand how it all works, because there's loads of free resources showing you step by step how to do the different types of editing you want to do. But in most editing software, what you'll have is a timeline where you can rearrange the video files you're using into the correct order and cut bits out. For example, if you made some mistakes when you were recording, you can just cut those bits out and we get what's called a jump cut. You don't need any fancy transitions. In fact, they often look a bit tacky. You can keep it nice and simple. Just cut the bits out you don't want. Make sure it's all in the right order. The only other things you might want to experiment with in the editing software is adding in some extra text, graphics, or pictures. Or, as we're going to go over in the next training, you might want to add in some background music, sound effects, and some extra video clips as well. All of those things can just help make the video more immersive, more entertaining, and just better quality overall. So we're going to be getting into that in the next training. But I would say right now, the best thing you can do is just make sure you pick an editing software and get familiar with it. A final thing some people do in their editing software is add some sort of intro clip to the start of every video. You've probably seen them on YouTube, especially amongst sort of like gaming channels. You'll see an intro with their channel name that's at the start of every single video. And you definitely can do that if you keep it very short. But honestly, I think you're better off just getting straight into the actual content. So I wouldn't even worry about that. But then the next stage in every video you produce is stage 5, the custom thumbnail. Because now you've made a great video, we need to make sure people will actually click on it and people look at the thumbnail more than the title now. So it's worth spending the extra time on the thumbnail in particular. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter how great the actual video is if nobody's clicking the thumbnail to watch it. So time spent getting the thumbnail right is always time well spent. Because then when you come to upload a video, YouTube will give you 3 random screenshots from your video to pick one of them as your thumbnail. Or you can upload a file from your computer. And you should almost always do the latter option. Because you're going to be able to create something far more enticing for people to click on if you actually design something with that purpose in mind, rather than just using the random screenshots that they generate for you. So almost always use a custom thumbnail and get into the habit of making one or getting someone to make one. And also a point to make here is that when I say custom thumbnail, every thumbnail should be unique to that specific video. Which may sound obvious, but I've seen some channels just have a very generic thumbnail template and they basically use the same thing for every video, just changing the words slightly. No, each one should be a good representation of your video that's enticing to click. So let's talk about how we can make it that we're enticing to click. Personally, I've found that the best format is often just a very expressive face or an interesting picture that's relevant to the video, obviously, with a couple of words alongside it. Don't write multiple sentences on the thumbnail because when it's shown at that small size, people aren't going to be able to read them and they're not going to want to read them. They just want a couple of keywords that gets to the point. So keep it really simple with the text and also keep it very eye-catching with any graphics you use and the background colors you pick. We want things that are bright, vibrant and contrasting colors. And in training 3.1, we'll get into some more advanced tactics with the thumbnail. But the key thing is you want to make sure every video has a custom thumbnail that's as enticing as possible to click on. But then we move on to the 6th and final stage, which is the upload checklist, which is a few things you should be doing for every video. And all of this checklist can be done from within the YouTube studio. In fact, when you click on upload a video, it will kind of walk you through this process where you can do all of these things. So it's nice and simple, but it's worth making sure every single video you have completed this little checklist. So first thing, you want to upload the final exported video file that you've exported from your editing software along with the matching custom thumbnail. So this is basically just the stuff you've just been doing in all these other 5 stages, just bringing that all together now, exporting them, and then uploading them to YouTube. And obviously, make sure you export in at least 1080p HD file format. But then the second thing you want to do is add a title, description, and tags to the video. In the search engine optimization training we're going to get into in the next module, you'll learn the best way to do this. But just remember, you always want to add a complete title to your video so it can signal to YouTube what the video actually is. You want to add a description that's at least a couple of paragraphs, and you want to try and fill the entire tags box just by putting in everything that comes to mind that's relevant to the video, that kind of describes what it's about. You can do some longer tags where it's more an in-depth description of what the video is, or some shorter ones as well, but more describe the genre of the video. Again, we'll get into the more specific training of that in the next module. But the third thing on the upload checklist you're going to do every video is add the video that you've just uploaded to any relevant playlists. Because playlists are a massively underutilized feature in my opinion. They allow you to group relevant videos you make together and make it really easy for people to binge watch your videos one after another, since playlists will autoplay the next video. And you can make as many playlists as you want, just title them something searchable, and then even people who are not finding your video in search, they can find your playlist in search. So it's another way of helping people discover your content. But also, creating playlists kind of signal to the YouTube algorithm that you're active. So it's a great idea to make an extra playlist on your channel if you've had a longer gap than normal between videos. It's just kind of signaling to the algorithm you're still creating. But the important thing here with the playlist is that as you add more and more videos to your channel, obviously it's going to be easier to create more and more playlists to group them together in different ways. But even from the very beginning of your channel, just at least add 1 or 2 playlists. So when people click on the playlist tab on your channel, it can see you've actually put the effort in, and a few extra people might discover your content as a result of that. Fourth thing on the upload checklist, add some end cards that link to other relevant videos of yours. So rather than letting YouTube just decide whose videos to recommend right after people finish your video, well, why not decide yourself? Which you can do if you add end cards. You can either manually select a relevant video of yours, or you can let YouTube decide which video of yours is best for the viewer. But you should be doing this for every video, as it significantly increases the chances that the next video someone clicks on is another one of yours. Because if they're seeing the end cards, it means they've got to the end of your video. So you may as well show them another video of yours to click on, because that's going to increase the chance that they stay on your channel. So always add some end cards. There's no reason why you wouldn't. Fifth thing then, the final part of this upload checklist is to schedule the video. Because this way, if you schedule it, it'll be processed in full HD before going live. And you can also check everything looks okay and there are no issues before it goes properly live and everyone else sees it. And also, when you schedule videos, it means you can have a consistent video upload time, because you can schedule your video for a set day and time regardless of the time you actually upload it. So, for example, if you decide Wednesdays and Sundays are the days you're going to release your videos every week, you can upload them both on a Monday if you wanted, but then schedule them for one to go live on Wednesday, one to go live on Sunday. So always worth scheduling your videos rather than just posting them all at the time you're actually uploading them. So that's the upload checklist, and those are the 6 stages you're going to go through for every video. But how do we make this process more efficient? Because if right now you're feeling overwhelmed by this whole process, just know that's very normal. But it's not actually as scary and time-consuming as it may sound, especially once we factor in batching and outsourcing. Now, what I mean by outsourcing is fairly obvious. Some of those 6 stages we can just pass on to other people, but we'll get to that later in the course, because for your first few videos at least, I do think it's best to try and go through the full process yourself just to get a feel for all 6 stages. But I also just wanted to point out right from the beginning that you won't be the one always doing all 6 of those stages yourself once we start scaling your YouTube business. For example, things like thumbnails. Honestly, it's more efficient for you to be getting someone else to do it and you focusing on bigger tasks. But perhaps the biggest efficiency trick of all is batching. And all I mean by this is that rather than working on one video at a time and going through each stage for every single video, in my opinion, it makes a lot more sense to work on multiple videos at a time and focus on one stage at a time. The only exception here is if you're making your first ever video, in which case, don't worry about that yet. Just focus on making the first video. But after that, I think it's always worth batching content. So let's have a look at what that looks like in practice. So with stage 1, the idea phase, rather than just coming up with one idea at a time, it makes far more sense to block out a chunk of time to come up with lots of ideas all at once, because then you kind of get into the zone more and the ideas will start flowing. One idea can lead to another idea. And you're already sat there with your idea list document open, so you may as well brainstorm lots of ideas all at once. You know, it can be a week worth of content, a month worth, it's your call. But then with stage 2, write in the script. Just as above, block out a chunk of time to come up with a bunch of different scripts or outlines and bullet points, whatever you need for each video, all at once. Because again, it just makes more sense to batch the process while you're already there writing one script, write the next script. But where batching is perhaps most efficient is stage 3, recording the footage and the audio. Rather than setting up all the equipment and then packing it away every single video, just film multiple videos all at once while it's already set up and whilst you're ready to film. Because it saves so much time, but it also tends to mean that you end up being better with your recordings, whether that's on camera or just on microphone recordings. Because you get more into the zone, especially by your second recording. You're much less in your own head about it. You're just kind of getting on with it. And so, since motivation is temporary, when you have a surge of motivation of wanting to go and film some videos, never just film one, film several together while you're motivated to do so. And remember the state exercises from 2.3 to help with that as well. But the point is, the batching will make it much more efficient. Whereas if you have to go and get out your camera, set it up on a tripod, get it on the right setting, position it right, every single video, you're going to be much less inclined to do it. Whereas if you had a whole afternoon blocked out for just filming videos, you can get a lot done all at once. So you get the idea with batching, hopefully, because it's the same thing for the remaining 3 stages as well. If you were doing thumbnails, don't just do one at a time while you've already got the editing software open. Do several at once. So the point is more efficient to focus on one stage at a time, not one video at a time. And as a starting point, you could try working on 3 videos at a time and go through each stage in order. So pick 3 ideas, then write 3 scripts, then record 3 videos, then edit 3 videos, then make 3 thumbnails, then upload 3 videos and do the upload checklist for each. I mean, I even know some successful creators who say they film a whole month of videos all at once, which I think is perhaps a little bit too much, but it's about finding what's manageable for you and what works best. The key to all of this, though, if you are going to batch your content like this, is keep one document with a list of all your video ideas and simply write next to each one which stage in the process that video is at, because that way you can very easily keep track of everything. Next thing we need to talk about, though, when you're producing videos is how often should you post, which is essentially the classic debate of quality versus quantity. Now, obviously, if you could make an absolutely incredible video every single day, this would be a no-brainer. You should do that. But you only have X amount of time per week to make videos. So should you pour more time into making one video or spread that time out between multiple videos? Well, there are pros and cons to both options. So let's talk this through to see what would suit you best. There is an argument for posting every day, or at least as close to that as you can get. Because more videos equals more chances for the algorithm to push your content and get seen. And each video is essentially another entry into the algorithm lottery of videos that could go viral. So obviously having more videos is, generally speaking, a good thing. Of course, the problem is not as much effort is then going to go into each one. But having said that, you can still provide useful information in an entertaining way, even if it's quite a simple video. It doesn't always need to be really detailed editing, really fancy production value. It can be relatively simple and still be a high quality video in terms of the actual information and entertainment that the viewers get. On the other side of the argument, though, is that if you post too much, if you're posting every day, it can almost feel like you're kind of churning content out, and so it becomes less special. For example, if the audience think, oh, there'll be another video the next day, they're more likely to skip videos or miss them entirely if they're not on YouTube every day. So, what's the right answer here? Well, the real truth is I've seen people have success with both options. I've seen people go the high quantity route where they make daily videos that are less edited and researched, but because of the sheer volume of content they make, they have some hits and reach a wide audience by covering so many things. But on the flip side, I've seen people who post one really well-made video per week, and because it's so well put together, people watch it more and it gets promoted more and people keep coming back for more. What I would definitely say, though, is you don't want to really post more than once a day. That's the maximum. Any more than that and you're going to overwhelm people way too much, and you'll definitely hit a point of diminishing returns because the average views per video will drop a lot because each video is kind of going to cannibalize the views of the other videos you have. On the other side, though, you ideally don't want to post less than once a week. That should be the minimum. Because if you do, then you don't have as many video assets for people to find and watch, and your subscribers are more likely to forget your channel. And I also find that if you're taking more than 1 week to make a single video, you've passed the point of making a quality video and are instead trying to be a perfectionist, where you're worrying about the small details that are actually pretty insignificant. So within that range of once per day and once per week is normally pretty safe. And if you're completely unsure, I'd say 2 to 3 videos a week is perhaps a very nice middle ground option. Of course, the best posting schedule is one you can actually stick to and keep up with. So you have to be a little bit realistic here, because that way your audience are going to learn that you post on certain days, and YouTube can see you're reliably posting on a consistent basis, which they tend to reward because they want to send traffic to channels that can be counted on for new videos. So consistency is key. But there's no magic number here about how much to post, because it really is different for every creator and different for the type of content that they're going to make. So different strategies can work. In fact, in the past, I've compared it to being a Leonardo DiCaprio film versus an Adam Sandler film. Both are very loved actors, but whereas Sandler will pop up in a whole bunch of films, sometimes even within the same year, DiCaprio often goes a couple of years in between films, and when they do come out, they're Oscar contenders. So it's the same with YouTube on a smaller scale. You can either be popping up very regularly with decent stuff, or a bit less often, but when you do post, it's really worth the wait. And when you try this out, you'll get a sense of what's best for your audience as well as what's best for you. For example, with a gaming channel with a younger audience, I've seen daily videos be totally fine, but for me in the business niche, a lot of my subscribers have a lot going on and daily videos is just too much for them. So it depends. But if you hate that answer like I kind of do, here's something more practical. I think for the first week or two of your channel, aim to post at least once every 2 days, ideally even daily if you can. Because this is really just a practice making videos and build up a small library of content on your channel so it doesn't look empty. Because there's no way you can make a perfect video from day one anyway. So it takes a bit of experimentation to get used to everything. And by having this goal at the beginning of posting every day or once every 2 days, it removes any pressure. It just forces you to take action and start creating and get used to the whole process. But once you have got used to the process of making videos, definitely slow it down and lean much more towards the quality side than quantity, in my opinion. Ask yourself, how many genuinely high quality, meaning well-made, videos can I realistically make per week? And for most people, that's probably 1 or 2, possibly 3. But I think even having 1 or 2 great videos a week is better for long-term growth than pumping out lots of average videos. So the bottom line is there's no set answer here, but obviously our goal is always to produce as much high-quality content as we can. And I think asking yourself that question of how many high-quality videos you can make in a week and then sticking to that number is probably the best route to go. But now one very final thing we should talk about when it comes to producing videos is when should you actually post them? We talked about scheduling your videos, but what's the right day and time to release them and put them live? Well, YouTube themselves say that the actual specific time you post doesn't really matter in terms of the overall video's success, but we do know that maximizing the amount of views a video gets in its first couple of hours, and especially the first 24 hours, is very beneficial. So in your analytics in the YouTube Studio, once you've built up some subscribers, you can click on the Audience tab and it will show you exactly when your current audience are most active on YouTube. So posting at those times would obviously make the most sense. However, I think a bit of common sense is also applicable here to figure out when is and isn't a good time to post. For example, what location are most of your audience in? When would they be asleep? When would they be at work? And when would they most likely to be able to watch videos? So I think using a bit of trial and error to see which day and time gets the best results is a good thing, but use that audience tab in analytics as well. And then once you've found a time that seems to be working well, definitely try and stick to that so you have a consistent upload schedule, because both people and YouTube really like that consistency. So there you have it. That's the video production process you're going to be going through. And as we said, the more you do this, the more efficient it's going to become, especially once you start batching and outsourcing. But now you can get an idea of what we're going to be going through. And I will see you in the next training where we're going to be getting more into the editing side of making really great videos.